Good evening, everyone. It's September 21st, first third Thursday Sherman Park Eco webinar of the fall. So we took the summer off and we are beginning again. We're going to offer webinars on the third Thursday of October and the third Thursday of November. And then during the holiday season, we'll take December off as well. I'm Tim Perkins. I'm one of the Eco ambassadors, Sherman Park Eco ambassadors. We're connected with the Environmental Collaborative Office of Milwaukee. We're the second official eco neighborhood in the city. And I just want to introduce our eco neighborhood ambassadors who are on board tonight. Anne, do you want to introduce yourself and the group that you work with primarily?
Hello, everybody. I'm Ann Knadler. I live in the Uptown Crossing section of Sherman Park. I'm with the Uptown Crossing Neighborhood Association, and I'm one of the eco ambassadors.
Great. And gardener. Yep. Steve.
Hired gardener.
oh, Steve. Are you there, Steve? Mabel, why don't you introduce yourself while we're waiting for Steve to come back?
Sure. I am Mabel Lamb. I'm the executive director of the Sherman Park Community Association, as well as an eco ambassador, and I reside in the St. Joseph's neighborhood.
And Steve?
I'm back. Sorry. Steve O'Connell, and I live over in the Grassland Manor neighborhood. Great.
And then Tyler, you're really an ambassador as well as member of the staff. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Tyler. I work with Sherman Park Community Association. I am also a resident of Sherman Park. I live in Sunset Heights. I started my little foray here as a member of Sherman Park Neighborhood Tree Board, and now I help further branch out's initiative through SPCA.
Great, thanks. So we'll introduce everybody else who's presenting tonight as we go along. And tonight we are going to again hear about the branch out program that's a co-initiative of Sherman Park Eco, SPCA, and Milwaukee Water Commons. And then about 6:45 or so, we will hear from our wonderful new colleagues at UWM and the Milwaukee Watermark. So the purpose of this is to record the information so that we can get information to people within Sherman Park and our Sherman Park neighborhood. And we look forward to working with our neighbors as we seek to green Sherman Park. So we begin with reintroduction and more information about the branch out program. And that's going to be Joe Fitzgerald and Tyler. So take it away, Joe.
Yeah, I'll just do a quick introduction, and I think, Tyler, did you want to still go first for this?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
okay.
I'm a little nervous, but sure.
I'll kick things off and just say, so my name is Joe Fitzgerald. I'm a program manager with a nonprofit organization here in Milwaukee called Milwaukee Water Commons, and I'll talk a little bit more about what our organization does, and also some of the Branch Out Milwaukee campaign program and how that program's being rolled out here in the Sherman Park neighborhood. But also just I'm really grateful to be co-presenting with Sherman Park Community Association and Tyler in specific as a member of the Sherman Park Neighborhood Tree Board about the work that's going on in the Sherman Park neighborhood around trees and green spaces, and really trying to increase the canopy here in Sherman Park. Also increase resources for tree maintenance and just in general trying to make sure that we can have the benefits of trees here in the Sherman Park community, and also have a positive relationship with those trees so that when those major storms are coming, it's not as much of a challenge. So Tyler's gonna kick things off here and kind of just talk a little bit about why trees, I believe, and a little bit more of the program. But I'm Joe, and I'm looking forward to talking more soon.
Hello. I would like to start out with showing everybody a quick view of the neighborhood. Here's a map at it's through Gunwork, Milwaukee. This is Sherman Park right here. And first, I'm going to start out by showing you the tree canopy coverage. This green dot right here, can everybody see? Okay.
Yep.
This green dot right here is, Sherman Park. Here's Grant Boulevard. There's Roosevelt. Now let me add impervious surfaces layer. All right, so we see 30th Street corridor. We got the bus station here. We have Fond du Lac. This is the corner of Burleigh and 51st. We have Lisbon and Appleton. Now let me add the layer of median surface temperature. All right, so as you can see, impervious surfaces and concrete absorb heat. All right, so we can see that. We can see even right here, I'll turn it off real quick. The blob of green canopy at Sherman Park is light blue compared to the 30th Street corridor, which is bright red. All right, now I'm going to start a PowerPoint real quick. Very simple. I didn't want to overwhelm you on stats, unfortunately. Okay, so the the abundant benefit of urban trees and why they are essential to our future. Oh, I can't see. Sorry. 1 second. Okay, all other things being equal, patients with bedside windows looking out at leafy trees healed on average a day faster, needed significantly less pain medication, and had fewer post-surgical complications than patients who instead saw a brick wall. Time in nature, as we all know, helps decrease anxiety and depression. I know that if I need to take a breather and to kind of clear my head, the first place I go is a well-treed boulevard or street. And just having trees around you, around me, encourages me to get out. If I lived in the middle of a parking lot, I would probably want to stay in my house because there's no shade and infinite heat. All right, shade acts as AC essentially. I know quite a few of us understand the heat island effect of urban environments. So the cooling benefits of trees decrease cost and the electrical requirements by 12%. Trees help cool the planet by sucking in and storing harmful greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide into their trunks, branches, and leaves, and releasing oxygen back into the atmosphere. In cities, trees can reduce ambient temperatures by 14 degrees Fahrenheit. There is a clear difference, we all know, between 70 and 84 degrees. If it's 84 degrees, I'm not going outside usually because I'm a diva like that. But if it's 70 degrees, I'm definitely taking walks. A tree's shade acts like natural air conditioning. My first summer in my home, I planted, after we chopped all of our trees down because they were dead and dying, I planted a tree because I know that I'll be here for the long haul, and that tree is going to reap massive rewards in the next 10 to 20 years of my life. Trees, proper place around buildings, which we will see the proper placement in the next slide. I believe the next slide. Reduce air conditioning needs by 30% and can save 23% in energy used for heating. So I believe what they mean by that is that in the winter, when the frigid air is coming at us from Minneapolis, it acts as a windbreak and reduces the amount of heat we need. Neighborhoods with lots of pavement absorb more heat and can be 5 to 8 degrees hotter than surrounding areas. These areas also stay hotter later into the night, which is detrimental to our health. As you saw on the map that I opened with, we can see that the heat congregates on impervious surfaces and on pavement. And all right, trees convert harmful greenhouse gases into oxygen. Studies show children living within 250 yards, so almost 200 or 750 feet. Congested highways are 6 times more likely to develop cancer. The most filtration occurs from trees filtering our air occurs within 100 feet of a tree. So my lot is like 130 feet long or something. So every lot would greatly benefit from a tree because that is where the most air filtration occurs. Trees remove the kind of air pollution that's most dangerous to our lungs, particulate matter. More trees in cities can reduce ailments like asthma and heart disease that cause 5% of deaths worldwide. Trees can help to clean the air we breathe. Through their leaves and bark, they absorb harmful pollutants and release clean oxygen for us to breathe. Yes, and we'll skip a little bit of that for time. A single tree produces nearly 3/4 of the oxygen required for one person. So the 3 trees on my yard is enough for my partner and I for oxygen. Not considering necessarily carbon sinks, but oxygen, yes. One study I saw says that for one car, it takes 250 trees to sequester a year's worth of driving that vehicle. So that is a whole nother story. A canopy of trees in an urban environment can slash smog levels by up to 6%, which is very helpful, especially in urban environments where people, children, elderly people with pre-existing conditions live close to high traffic areas. And to kind of reflect back, having a tree 100 feet from your house is very important. I cannot read the slide because I can't read what the top says. I think it's about biodiversity.
It says Habitat for Wildlife.
All right, Habitat for Wildlife. So, being in Milwaukee, we are in the Mississippi Flyway. This is kind of a highway for birds migrating in the spring and the fall from back and forth to the Gulf of Mexico and Central America. A single tree can be home to hundreds of species of insects, fungi, moss, mammals, and plants. Depending on the kind of food and shelter they need, different forest animals require different types of habitats. Without trees, forest creatures would have nowhere to call home. A study that I read was talking about urban heat islands and how they attract birds because of the heat alone. But if our urban forest doesn't offer the food and shelter and breeding habitat necessary for birds flying through, one, we're not going to get birds to stay, and two, we might inadvertently prevent birds from making it out of the city. Attracted to the heat of cities, but cities are hot because of the pavement and structures which often raise trees, which cause a food desert for our avian friends. Planting trees and berry shrubs to help mitigate urban human infrastructure and also helps these birds to their winter or summer homes. Cuts noise pollution. Living in the city, this was probably my favorite stat that I came up with because I didn't know about it mainly, but excessive or unwanted sounds has negative physical and psychological effects, which I can attest to. Noise can come from many sources, especially road and highways. Trees can play an important role in deadening unwanted noise. Sound waves are absorbed by a tree's leaves, branches, and twigs. Studies suggest that belts of trees 100 feet wide, again with 100 feet, very important number, that you should have a tree within 100 feet. So it's just a belt of trees 100 feet wide and 45 feet long can cut highway noise in half. Tim, can you read the title for me?
Improved property values.
Improved property. Okay, this is my second favorite slide. Trees can improve property values, improve the tax base of the neighborhood and area and the city, and enhance neighborhood appeal by making streetscapes more pleasant. If, let's say, Mayfair Mall were to treat their parking lot like a forest with parking underneath, I would be much more likely to go. That sounds very pleasant to me, rather than slogging a quarter mile through the heat of the pavement into the AC of the mall. Commercial areas with trees generally enjoy higher occupancy, rental leases, rental/lease rates than properties without such landscaping, and surveys show that consumers prefer to shop in places that are graced with trees and other forms of landscaping. Trees can also property values for improved lots can rise as much as 30% on the amount density of tree cover. So on the right side is what I'm most interested in. Mature trees in a well-landscaped yard can increase the value of a house by 7 to 19%. Having large trees in yards along streets, so that means the city-owned trees between our sidewalk and the street, increases the home value from 3 to 15%. And I'll show you on a website how we can request a tree from the city. Landscaping can bring a recovery value of 100 to 200 times percent selling time, whereas a kitchen remodel brings 75 to 125% return, and a bathroom remodel brings 20 to 120%. That shocked me. So I mean, that really shocked me. Like, landscape is even more important than a kitchen and bathroom remodel. So my tree that I spent $500 on will at least bring back the $500, if not more. Steve, I think this one's about water. I'm not sorry, Steve, Tim.
This water.
Yes, water, flood, and erosion protection.
Leaf canopies help reduce erosion by causing falling rain. Okay, so a little story. Imagine you're gonna take a walk after a rain with your fun friend, and they decide to pull a branch down on your head to release the raindrops that are sitting on top of the leaves. The rain on top of those leaves is surface action, surface area in play. That water that is not going into our soil is going to be more easily reduced into the atmosphere through evaporation. Tree canopies increase the surface area where stormwater falls, decreasing among the from
It's supposed to be the amount of runoff.
Yeah. Root systems serve as water catchment areas that promote infiltration. Trees help anchor soil, reduce storm runoff, saving the high cost of drainage ditches, storm sewers, and other engineered solutions to stormwater management. Though I do appreciate our fathers, the sewer socialists. Maybe if we had, a better tree canopy, maybe we wouldn't need the deep channel. I don't know, but I still do appreciate it. A street line with 32-foot tall trees can reduce runoff by almost 372 gallons. That alone should sequester the water, for instance, infiltrating some of the homes' basements of Grassland Manor, allowing cities to install smaller and less expensive water management systems. Reducing runoff also decreases topsoil erosion and the amount of silt and other pollutants washed into streams, rivers, and lakes. All right, and that is it. This is Oh, no. 1 second. Oh, no. All right, so I do have a list of, okay, so for some reason I don't have the link up, but Milwaukee.gov, forestry, you go to forestry online service requests, you then click on forestry, and then you click on other forestry requests. And this is to request a tree planting, a city tree planting in front of your home between your sidewalk and your road. So how do I stop the share?
Tyler, the one thing
Oh,
too
I
is
see it.
if they take a tree down in front of your house, you can request right away. So when they grind up the stump, they'll put a
Yeah.
tree in for you.
Yeah, so
So
one
it's
thing
real
I
important
do
to do
want,
that.
one thing I want to add is that when you request the tree, I would do some research into your sewer lateral that goes from your house to the sewer. You do not want that future tree to be planted like many city trees were over the sewer lateral, because that will be a huge problem in the future, from 10 to $20,000 to fix a sewer lateral. So do not plant a tree over a sewer lateral. Do not make the same mistake as our forefathers. Work with the city to plant a tree in the proper place. All right. That's my presentation.
The other thing too is, Tyler, when we went to get a tree, they came and looked at our trees. So we have a birch and a maple, and they suggested the canopy and the size of the canopy. And then they gave us 3 choices as to what kind of tree we wanted.
Oh,
So they were real good about it because they knew we had trees. And then
Mhm.
Hoppy came out and assessed the size of our trees for us also. So that worked out perfect.
Good. Well, that works out for us because I believe that, unless I'm mistaken or things have changed, I think we go through Hoppy for a tree maintenance through branch out. So
mhm. So Tyler, have you, as a member of the tree board, have you learned a lot about trees and the benefits of trees as a result of being on the tree board?
yes, yeah, way more than I thought I ever would have wanted to know. But now I think that I know a little bit. It's more exciting as I learn newer and newer benefits, like real estate improvement and noise cancellation. Like I would definitely, I'm an advocate of hearing half the amount of racetrack around my house.
Mm-hmm.
When I was, Tyler, everybody, it was interesting. When I was on the Boulevard Committee, the trees were the key. The trees, the dampening noise. And so how they were going to do the trees, and then the trees' root systems, how far they would branch out underneath the pavement, the heat of the pavement. So there was this big discussion about the tree roots and all this, that, and the other thing. And some of us were kind of glazed over in the whole discussion, but it was an important discussion to have, though. It was kind of key.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks for laying out again the wonderful benefits of trees, and glad you're on the tree board.
Same.
So Joe, do you want to tell us a little bit more about how neighbors can benefit from the branch out program?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna share my screen here and I'll try to get through these somewhat quick.
Oh, that's all right. Take your time.
Okay. Can you all see slides?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I just am appreciative that I can follow Tyler's presentation on the benefits of trees with a conversation about work that we're doing together with folks on this call, to try to bring trees into Sherman Park, but also to try to maintain trees like I was mentioning before as well, so that we can really, have that relationship with the benefits of trees rather than some of the negative feelings you might have with trees during a major storm. So I work with Milwaukee Water Commons, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the work that we're doing in Sherman Park through the Branch Out Milwaukee campaign. Um, so a little bit on who we are. Milwaukee Water Commons is a cross-city network that fosters connection, collaboration, and broad community leadership on behalf of our waters. Oftentimes, what I will use as my elevator speech is we are a community-based environmental organization that works to connect communities around Milwaukee using our relationship to water as a way to do that. So we have a lot of different programs relating to water and water spaces, advocacy on the commons, and really a focus on environmental justice. But for this program in particular, our focus is on trees and green spaces. And, Tyler gave a really good overview of benefits of trees, so I won't spend a lot of time on this slide here. But for our work, what we've been doing is really speaking with kind of a large coalition of organizations and trying to facilitate some action on increasing the canopy in the city of Milwaukee, to really maximize those benefits of trees, but also to fill gaps in canopy. So what you see on the side of the screen here is a image of the before and after of Dutch elm disease. And so folks may remember that in around the 50s, Milwaukee and many other communities experienced a big disease that kind of swept and ended up in the removal of a lot of trees around the city of Milwaukee. And because of that loss of canopy, we saw a lot of spaces that just kind of went treeless for a while. There were a lot of trees that were planted following Dutch elm disease, but also a lot of spaces, especially on private property, where trees just were not replanted, or the trees that grew back were trees that folks didn't plant. They kind of grew out of garages and spaces where you wouldn't necessarily want to have a tree for the different kind of conflicts that Tyler was alluding to. So our focus is really on trying to bring back trees into the city of Milwaukee to maximize these benefits, but also learning from these kind of past mistakes, especially as there are potentially new threats to canopy, such as the emerald ash borer, which is a pest that's affecting a lot of folks' ash trees. So if you have an ash tree or know of an ash tree, you may have heard of that pest as well as a threat to canopy. And so for the Branch Out Milwaukee campaign, for Milwaukee Water Commons, we've been really focusing, launching that project in the Sherman Park neighborhood specifically. So I'll talk a little bit more about eligibility at the end of this slideshow, but wanted to just throw up some of the boundaries for Sherman Park, which Tyler was kind of pulling up and showcasing on that map, showing some of the climate impacts through Groundwork Milwaukee. But these are kind of the boundaries of the neighborhood that we're working with. So if you are within Sherman Park neighborhood, this year and next year, we'll be doing a lot around public tree planting events. We'll be doing tree inventories, and I'm just going through these because I'll talk more about each of them individually. And through our tree inventory will lead to some assistance with tree maintenance for folks who maybe have trees that could use some attention from a professional arborist, and also a free tree planting program where we'll work with you to identify the right spot for a tree that you might be interested in having in your yard, and have somebody come out to plant that for you. And then also the Sherman Park Neighborhood Tree Board, which we had kind of been talking about for Tyler's membership on the board. So I wanted to start off with that slide, Sherman Park Neighborhood Tree Board. I have photos of some of the tree board members in action. I still have yet to have a photo of all the tree board members in one place at one time, which is kind of crazy. So that's a goal for me for now, this year and next year. But the tree board members are Emma Berg, Rob Brox, Hunter Irwine, Sherry Fuqua, Felice Green, Jerry Hickman, Veronica Lopez, Felicia Martin, Steve May, Hank McGowan, Eliana Melendez, and Tyler Muller, who's on the call here today. And so what the idea of the Sherman Park Tree Board is that Sherman Park is is large enough. It's about as large as most small towns or cities would be. And so a tree board generally is something that is instituted in a small town or city in place of having a forestry division. And in general, when doing a tree planting project or working with trees, Water Commons really advocates that this should be done with community leadership on what it means, on how you're doing those programs. And so the Sherman Park Neighborhood Tree Board was meant to be organized as a group that would help to guide and inform decisions about trees and green spaces in Sherman Park, both for the work that we're doing, but also hopefully with anybody who's doing work in the city in the Sherman Park neighborhood, and also a group that could help connect and engage residents around urban forestry. So if folks have concerns around trees and green spaces, that this is a group that you can connect with, learn with, talk with, advocate with. And so if you're interested in learning more about the tree board, please reach out, let us know, to me, to Tyler. However, we'd be happy to talk more. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the different components of our project that we've been doing this year and last year, really, although this is a new grant funding source, which is why it's kind of separated to 23 and 24. But so one of those components is public tree planting events, and we've been working closely with the tree board on kind of identifying lots for hosting public tree plantings. Some of the images that you see on the side are from different events. Some of them are new ones from this year's Arbor Day. Some of them are from previous Arbor Day planting event. So this year we planted trees on the corner of 35th and Locust. You may have seen those out there. And we're also really open to ideas if folks living in Sherman Park have a vacant space, a public space near their house where they'd be interested in seeing trees planted. Reach out to Water Commons or to the tree board. We'd be happy to talk more about that. The other thing I wanted to put notice on is that we have an upcoming tree planting event happening this fall on October 8th. So from 1 to 3 p.m. at the Marcus Garvey Gardens, and I have some of our information here. You may see some flyers going out for this. I know the tree board and MWC staff have been really hitting the ground and doing some door-to-door outreach around it as well. So you may have somebody come in, wants to talk to you more about trees to put in that space, the vision for that lot. So there is both a community event kind of conversation about the vision for that lot on Thursday, September 28th. So next week already, from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. at the Marcus Garvey Gardens. And then there will be the actual tree planting event on October 8th on that Sunday. So I can put more info in the chat too, or put the address and times for those things.
Great.
Yeah. The next thing I wanted to talk about though is the tree inventory. So I mentioned an inventory, I mentioned planting and maintenance. The real gateway into engaging with this project, if you're interested in having a tree planted or you have a tree that could use some maintenance or attention from a professional, is to connect with us about a tree inventory. And so tree inventory it's basically a way of saying we are going out and recording trees that exist in the Sherman Park neighborhood. We end up sending information on those trees to the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, and they have a community tree map that kind of is a catalog of trees that exist all over the state of Wisconsin. And they use that to kind of assess forest health, to see trends in trees, what's growing where, and also to prioritize funding for projects and things. And there's generally not a very good record of trees that exist or don't exist on private property. So for us, we will do an inventory of a space that has no trees, and we will do an inventory of a space that does have trees, kind of as a way of just recording what trees do exist in Sherman Park, and that will help us continue to advocate for funding to support forestry initiatives in the neighborhood. But it also is an opportunity for us to do a consultation with you about trees in your lot. So I'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like. But I also wanted to kind of announce to folks, because I know that there are a number of people who have called into us about a tree inventory as well. We're going through some hiring right now, and our tree inventory has been delayed. So if you are hearing this and you're interested, please still reach out to us. We have a list of folks that we're planning to connect with, but that process has been a little bit slower than we'd like it to be. So we're hoping to get things really kick-started again this fall, and are optimistic that we'll be able to do that. But if you're on the list, we'll make sure that it's set up absolutely within this next year. So what does a tree inventory look like? This is actually an inventory of one of our past staff member, Eric, and some of the tree board members doing a tree inventory at Pilgrim Rest Missionary Baptist Church. And this is basically what we'll do is we'll send a staff member out there to kind of walk the space with you, take a look at the trees that are on your space. We'll record some information about what types of trees are on your property, and basically how healthy they look. And we'll end up talking to you about both the health of your trees, anything that we see that might be a recommendation for tree maintenance, and also talk to you about open space in your yard. So if there's a space that we think could be a really good place to plant a tree, or if you have ideas about plants or trees that you'd like to see go into your yard, it's just a person to talk to who might have some ideas about plants that would fit or wouldn't fit. And basically we'll then take notes on that conversation, write up a report for you, and also share some resources. So if we saw a really sunny spot in your yard and we're recommending specific tree types that you're interested in, we'll make sure that you get that information to make some decisions about that. The tree inventory is totally free. It just takes the time to set up a visit to your property, basically. And again, we'll be kickstarting those up again soon. So if you do have a inventory done, and during that inventory we identify, hey, that tree branch is looking a little sketchy, you might want to get that looked at by a professional. And we can share resources right away of an arborist that you can call. If you're interested in signing up for some assistance around paying for tree maintenance, we can also add you to our maintenance list. So we have a program where in 2023 and 2024, we will be working to assist folks with covering the cost of tree maintenance on their property. It's a limited program, and it's going to be based on basically urgency of those tree risks, and also the subsidy will be based on household income. So we're going to have more information on kind of the income, like how much subsidy you may be eligible for, that we'll be sharing out soon. But we are planning to kickstart maintenance this fall. So basically, once you've signed up for an inventory, then you would be added to our list around the tree maintenance. And what would happen is we work with a professional arborist. Last year it was Hoppy Tree Services. This year we're still doing some of the procurement around that. But it would be then a tree risk assessment. So an arborist would come out to consult with you around giving you more like a professional assessment of what needs to be done with the tree and how much that would cost. And then we work with you to sort out how much you'd pay, how much Water Commons pays, and then cover that with the arborist, and they come back and do that work either in the fall or over the winter. We also do tree plantings. This year and next year we'll be working with Milwaukee Community Service Corps to do tree plantings, and also with Johnson's Nursery to purchase some of those trees. So if we came out and you were interested in planting a tree on your property, we would indicate that, and then one of our staff would follow up with you to talk about tree types again, kind of what would fit. We'd look at the nursery and see what's out there, work with you to identify basically the right tree for the right place. So Tyler brought up not wanting to plant a tree over your sewer lateral. You also don't want to plant a tree too close to your house, or a tall tree underneath a power line. And so we just kind of come out and make sure that we're talking about what tree would fit in your space, what it is that you want it to look like, what's the best, what's the best tree for you. And then we'd work with the nursery to purchase that tree, and then Milwaukee Community Service Corps would come out and do the tree planting themselves. They would work with you to schedule that. And they have a great program for tree planting, and also a great program for workforce development for folks who are interested in getting into the sector. So it's another way for folks to kind of get plugged in. So, and then eligibility, I wanted to talk about that quick at the end here too, in case that's a question that folks have. Again, we're working with properties within the Sherman Park neighborhood, so we do sometimes get calls from folks who are outside of Sherman Park, and we do our best to connect folks with resources and information about how to get trees, or tree tips, or how to call an arborist, who to contact. But we right now are not working outside of the neighborhood. Maybe one day this program will continue to expand, but if you are in Sherman Park and you own your property, then you're automatically eligible to work with us on either the tree planting or tree maintenance. That includes if you live in and are owning a duplex or a triplex. We also are working with residential property or residential rental properties this year, but there are some criteria around that the property has to meet. The property has to be owned by an individual. It can't be owned by a trust, a partnership, an LLC. And we will work to verify the ownership of the property, because it eventually will need to be signed on by the property owner. The property owner must live in the Sherman Park area. And the property can't be maintained by a property management company. We would consider that to be tree maintenance to be a part of the responsibility of a property management company. And the other rule is that if you live in Sherman Park and you have a rental property in Sherman Park, and you'd like both trees in both spaces to be maintained or planted in both spaces, you can only do one property per year through this program. So we can work with you, but you'd have to identify which of the properties you'd be interested in doing and working with us on. And then we also will do tree plantings or tree maintenance for corporate or nonprofit properties. Things like we'll plant trees on community gardens. In the past, we've done maintenance with churches, but that's decided on a case-by-case basis. So reach out if you're a group like that and you're interested, but know that we'll have to talk more about the project and what it entails to see what fits. And then that's me when I had longer hair. So if you're interested to stay in touch, I'll put my contact info in the chat as well for folks who are on this call, but please reach out anytime.
Next webinar, we can do the Joe Fitzgerald story. So Joe, if you could stay on, I want to give time for the Watermark people, but great presentation. Thanks to both Tyler and Joe. Spells out how the program can be, how people can take advantage of the program, the opportunity to plant trees, have trees maintained, and just have a tree inventory. And it sounds like that's going to be kickstarting this fall. Hopefully an arborist will find Milwaukee Water Commons, and we'll move forward together over the next year and months. So thank you. Unless anybody has any real specific short question, let's move on to Watermark, which really relates to all of this, water and trees. So Ellie, will you let's introduce the Watermark people on the webinar tonight, and then let's launch into an introduction to Watermark.
That sounds great. I'll start. And Joe, I was wondering if you would put the dates for those events in the chat as well. That would be great. Then I can copy them. My name is Ellie Jackson. I work on Watermarks, and I'm based at UWM. My title is Project Manager with Watermarks. And I'm excited to be here tonight. Brian?
Sure, I'll go ahead. So I'm Ryan Holyfield. I am I'm known as the principal investigator or the PI for the project. That's the term that National Science Foundation uses. I'll say a little bit, I'm going to let Jessica introduce herself, and then I'll say a little bit about what that means and how that grant is supporting the current work that we're doing. But I'm going to let Jessica introduce herself first.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, everyone. Nice to see you. I'm Jessica Munich-Ganger. I'm head of printmaking and book arts in the fine arts department at UWM and part of the Watermarks research team. So I've been working closely with Ryan and Ellie. Back to you, Ryan.
Thanks. And I'm just going to say just a few words to kick it off, and then I'm going to turn it over to Ellie to show you some pictures and tell you a little bit more in detail about the program and what's in store. So I will just start off by saying, again, I'm the PI or the principal investigator for this project. This is a project, a citywide project that is designed to basically to promote learning and engagement with with Milwaukee's water systems, and especially its green infrastructure in a time of climate change and changing weather patterns that are associated with that. When I say learning, I mean that in multiple directions. It's about mutual learning. So it's about not only about enabling residents to learn more about the green infrastructure features that are within their own communities or within other communities, and also to learn about how all these communities are connected with each other. But it's also a chance for people to learn from each other about, for agencies, for scientists, for artists, et cetera, to learn from residents as well about their experiences, their knowledge of what it's like to live in particular neighborhoods, and what they know about water from that neighborhood as well. So it's a project of mutual learning. One of the hallmarks of this is the centrality of art as well. So Ellie's going to say more about it, but this is in one sense, it is a citywide public art project, but it's not just an art project. The idea is to put artists and artistic projects in conversation with community members as well as with scientists, and to see what kind of learning can happen through the conversations that evolve around this. Briefly, this is so when I say that I'm part of the grant project, this is a 4-year project supported by the National Science Foundation, a particular program called Advancing Informal STEM Learning, or Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics, basically science learning. And this is a program that normally supports institutions like museums and zoos and aquariums. So this is a kind of an unusual, it's almost like a citywide exhibition, but a lot is going to be going on around these projects. So we're in the middle of that grant project. This is helping us get the project off the ground and introduce it into neighborhoods. But the goal is certainly to have this be something that goes on for as long as it possibly can. So this is a long-term project where this is really just the beginning. So with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Ellie to tell you more about some of the details here.
Thanks, Ryan. So some of what I'm going to say is just recapping some of what Ryan shared. Some of the core components of Watermarks are community engagement, walks, workshops, artist projects, and watermarkers. And today, us being a part of this meeting, one of our main focuses is building a neighborhood project team within Sherman Park, and just making sure people know about watermarks so that they can decide whether they'd like to be part of the neighborhood project team. The neighborhood project team is like a decision-making group. It's usually a smaller group of people within Sherman Park who would help steer the direction of these other components, the community walks through the neighborhood, workshops where people come together to share their water stories and eventually agree on the letter that will represent one of the water markers in Sherman Park. This group will help steer the project's artists for the community, and just sort of generally be kind of ambassadors for watermarks within Sherman Park. And so part of why we're here is just to inform everyone of what watermarks is, and make sure that, you know, it's not so everyone has a chance to know and ask questions today and moving forward, but also kind of specifically to see if people want to join that neighborhood project team. Ryan, Jessica, do you want to add anything to that? Cool.
Great.
Okay.
Sorry.
So the neighborhood project team, what is a neighborhood project team? This again is like a smallish group of people. One of the conversations that we've had with members on this call and our team is that Sherman Park is such a big neighborhood. It has a big footprint, and so many people, like 32,000 people, which is one of the bigger neighborhoods in Milwaukee. And so usually a neighborhood project team is like, you know, a small group of people. This one might be like 8 to 10 folks. And depending on everyone's availability and how people's schedules align, everyone will meet up occasionally, sometime, you know, aiming for something like a 6 to 12 month time frame, to do things like choose an artist to work with, or a small group of artists that we can ask to be involved in the art component of the watermark being brought into Sherman Park, selecting walk leaders, which would be an environmentalist, an artist, and resident and lead, you know, community leader in Sherman Park, deciding what themes this community walk would focus on, or like what lens we'd be planning the walk around, and then doing some of that program planning. We also are here, myself and Haley Rohr, who's been involved in a lot of Sherman Park meetings, but isn't here tonight. But we're sort of here as a support for this team, but it's just really important that community-driven decisions come from the community. So that's what this neighborhood project team is meant to do. So again, so we'd be there to support, but a lot of the decisions would come from the neighborhood project team. And then to just acknowledge and honor that time, there is a modest stipend for participating, which is something the neighborhood project team will receive. This is, so when we were talking about coming to the meeting and sharing a little bit about watermarks, I think Mabel brought up how important it would be to showcase other neighborhoods who have watermarks and some of the art projects happening around those watermarkers in other neighborhoods. And so that's what this next set of slides is. And Jessica and Ryan, if you guys could hop in here, especially to share some of the history of the projects, that would be great. This poster, this is fresh art. This just was commissioned, I suppose. Michael Tim from Reflow worked with Sydney Hoffman to make this poster. And this poster is sort of the reward for participating in Doors Open this weekend. So if you're part of Doors Open, or plan on going around, or know anyone who's going around for Doors Open this weekend, there's a challenge, which is to make it to every marker, solve a riddle. And then at Harbor Fest, which is on Sunday the 24th, you can turn in a passport or show on your device that you've like solved all the riddles, and you can be eligible to get this beautiful custom poster of watermarkers and all of the infrastructure around them around Milwaukee. Jessica, can I tag you in for this part?
Sure. Yeah. The slide before on the poster, it had images from a bunch of different projects from around the city, and artists like Melanie Arians and Gabriella. And I'm just totally blank the name, her last name. Sorry about that.
Riveros.
There you. Thank you. And neighborhoods in Lindsay Heights and other projects. So just sort of the confluence of the rivers sort of embracing all of the projects that have taken place so far. And in this slide, it shows the progress. We have three water markers in place at this point. You see one at Acosta. So there's the A for agua and other, they chose a letter based on some of the Acosta and some of the other leading values of that area. And then there you can see Melanie Arians with on the left of the screen with Ontario. She did this beautiful mural project under the bridge that included students and neighbors, and it was this really beautiful collaborative mural. And then Amara's on the right with another artwork over in the Lindsay Heights area. And then you see a neighborhood project meeting down in the Lindsay Heights neighborhood. And that was usually kind of in the background and some Post-it notes up there where we were doing some collaborative activities to brainstorm the core values of that community to come up with a letter for another water marker. So they, all of these are very specific to each community, and starting with the marker letter, and then from that the art and the placement and the activations around that marker unfold. Here's another activity with the Post-it notes of the community voting on a letter to choose for a marker. And this is at the Beer Line Trail above with the River West and Harambe neighborhoods. And that was a guided walk to see the artwork and just some sites along the river where we talked about issues that were important to the community. And then on the right, I'm not sure.
I was at that event. That
Okay.
was Sarah Gail Luther was the artist for the marker in the Harbor District, and she worked with middle school class or multiple middle school classes at a school near there, as well as residents, to come up with themes around water and around community. And she did the artwork, but the community felt it was really important to make sure that the signs were in Spanish and not with English translation. And so there's 10 signs along Greenfield, starting around 10th and Greenfield, that take you into the Harbor District. So every few blocks, you'll find one of these wayfinders leading you to the site of the marker.
These are images from the tour. Mabel is in one where and Tim and we all went and visited the Sherman Park neighborhoods, went and visited the Green Tech station just to see what had, with each marker, we hope to contribute to and be part of a larger coalition of organizations and activities surrounding it. So it's, it was in place already. We added the marker and then it has grown from there with artwork. The Green Tech station has sponsored all kinds of different activities at the site. So it really has been, all of these units have come together in really, how should I say, just the timing was right for all of these organizations and different stakeholders to come together to activate this, and it really grew. And so this was a wonderful example of the potential of all of these organizations coming together and making something really active, where it's combining the science, the research, the education, and then just as soon as it happens, it seems like this is a great example of how other people were willing to bring in and add to this and make it a really robust stretch of education and recreation and so on. So I think it's just a really exciting model to look at and imagine how something like this could fit within Sherman Park.
I'll add, while we're on the Green Tech Station slide, that they are having a Green Tech Station grand opening on the 28th, which I think is next Thursday. in the morning. This is Mikal Floyd Pruitt. He's the artist at Melvina Park. His artwork is, he designed superheroes to reflect the superheroes doing green infrastructure work in the community already, as well as the future superheroes. So there's a young person who's like designing, he designed sort of like an R2D2 sort of like environmental bot. And then an elder sort of superhero woman who has been carrying on the green infrastructure legacy, and they're fictional characters, but I think very much based on actual residents he's met and gotten to know. And so he'll install these sort of, I think they're large murals, but they'll have, I always get this wrong, it's not an AI component, but it'll have some sort of like interactive computer component to it. And that was his vision for the Melvina Park marker. And I wasn't a part of that community decision to make the C, but they have C for community, Century City.
It was a good lively discussion around it. Yeah, that was a workshop we did early last summer, if I'm remembering correctly. And it was a great conversation. And then they took the conversation from the workshop and then discussed it as a community a little later on and chose C.
It might be the end. It's not letting me keep going, so I'm gonna guess that's the end. Yeah, are there any last minute thoughts to add, Ryan and Jessica, or can we open up for questions?
One thing I want to add before I forget is that we have at least Jessica, and then Jessica, maybe you can help me out in here. I know we have looks like we have a walk coming up in one of another partner neighborhood on the south side, so the Kinnickinnick River neighborhood. And Jessica, am I right? They're looking at October 22nd.
Right. They have an event on the 21st that they're going to use to announce the walk on the 22nd. It's a Sunday. So they're thinking that, they have a lot of participation both days of the weekend typically for events. So they're excited about having a good turnout and being able to announce it the day before, and then offering something as an after church kind of afternoon activity for families to come and walk and continue the conversation of brainstorming and a location for a new letter and learning more about a new artist in their community. So that will be they keep proposing Yessi Perez as the artist, and she keeps saying, I need to learn more about this, but I'm pretty sure that she's going to be the artist leading the walk. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, and I'd want to emphasize too that others would be welcome. These are open. These walks are open, where it's wonderful to have people coming in from outside the neighborhood as well to be able to learn about what's going on in that neighborhood and learn about there's some wonderful artwork that's already there. A marker is already in place, so it's a great chance to get connected. So we'll as we get more details about how that when that takes place, we'll obviously share it with all of you.
Great, good. And we're grateful that Ellie and Haley and others on the team are getting out and meeting with our community leaders and neighbors to get the information out about Watermark. And we have two events, one virtual, one in person, for those who maybe want to go the next step and learn more about what it would mean to be a part of the Watermark project team. So Ellie, could you talk about that briefly?
Yes. So again, the hope of joining the meeting today and making sure that this, gets recorded to share out is just to share about Watermarks so that it's on people's radar. But again, we'll have two informational sessions, one on October 3rd, and I'm so sorry, I'll have to pull up my calendar, but Mabel, if you remember, one is virtual
The October 3rd is virtual,
Thank you. And then, yeah, go ahead.
and the October 4th is an in-person meeting. And I was just wondering if you could pull up the flyer.
I can, let me find the file on my desktop.
Well, Ellie's bringing up the flyer. Think of if you have any questions, and we can also, we have some of our neighbors on board. Just maybe could ask some questions that of Joe and Tyler as well. So let's take another 10 minutes. Let's ask some questions related to the Watermark project. And if there's any questions that have come to mind about the branch out program since Joe finished the presentation.
I got my hand up, but I'll just say this. Can you describe for people who haven't seen the Watermark, can you describe for them what it looks like, how tall it is, what it does, and the benefits of it, so that people on this call would have a good understanding? And then also, yeah, I think that would be great. So if you all are interested, please join us either in a virtual meeting or in the in-person session. Like Ellie was mentioning, the Tuesday, October 3rd, and then the Wednesday session, October 4th. We'd love to have you all as residents. I see Monique is here, and our retired principal, Radonna Williams. We'd love to have you as part of this program. So, but yeah, if you could just describe what that Watermark really looks like and does, that would be awesome.
Sure. Do you want me to take this, or would anyone else like to? Or I'm happy. Or anyone else can jump in. And I strongly recommend to go check out the Green Tech Station if you can. It's not far away. It's just right off of just north of Capitol on, is it 32nd Street or 31st?
I think it's actually 30th.
30th. Okay, I knew it was. I was in the right ballpark, but it's just right off of the Capitol. And so what it is, so it is a letter mounted, and you can see in the picture right now, the Enye that is down. This is the one in Pulaski Park, so that can give you a frame of reference. So the letter lights up at night, and if there is a heavy storm coming, it will pulse. And the purpose of that pulse is to let it is coordinated with the water drop alerts that the sewerage district puts out, and it's a reminder to, okay, at that time, this is a time I need to conserve my water. I need to wait to run my dishwasher or my laundry or anything like that that's going to be heavy use of water. One of the things to note about them that I think is pretty cool is that you can't see it in this picture, but the poles, which are approximately 25 feet high, are wrapped with solar panels. So this is powered by solar. So it also provides a really interesting way of learning about solar panels as well. And it's also a Wi-Fi hotspot. So if you're in the area right around it, you can get on the free Wi-Fi. You can connect with, learn more about water markers or other things if you want to do that. And of course, it's just really, it is we like to call it the stake in the ground. It's really the anchor to all the other things that go on. So, and you can see the programming here, the walks. Again, there's going to be a great opportunity to learn about that coming up very soon. Those lead up to the workshops where the letter gets chosen. And then artist projects are done in conjunction with these water markers. So all of those that have gone in, they're artist projects. They're basically surrounding it that, again, expand on those themes of water that are important for the community. What do you think? Did I cover everything, or are there other things I should
I
say?
think that's pretty good. And the only other thing that I would add is the reason that the water drop alert goes off is so that we have time for, so MMSD has time to process all of the water that's stored up in the deep tunnel, so that it doesn't spill into the rivers and lakes, and so that it doesn't back up into people's basements, which we know from getting to know Sherman Park is a huge issue in a lot of areas around Sherman Park. So yeah, the work with the tree board and the work that you all are already doing, this sort of fits hand in hand with trying to come up with community-driven solutions for some of those issues.
Thank you, Ellie.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was one of the things that has been, certainly in when we talked with folks after the Lindsay Heights walks, I mean, one of the most powerful things for people was seeing the connection between green infrastructure in their neighborhoods, bioswales, these sorts of things that you might not even notice, and making the connections between that and what's going on with your basement. Because that they have a intimate connection with each other, and that's really the kind of connection that these walks and workshops are all about.
Thank you.
Yeah, the other important information place is your website, and there's some good videos on there that people might enjoy watching. Does the QR code take you to a sign-up sheet, or does it take you to the website?
So there's two, just to make sure we have covered our bases. The top one that's next to the virtual meeting is for registering for the Zoom link. And then the second one is for general interest. So you can fill out either and we'll make sure that information makes it your way.
Yeah, and then you have the website down there at the bottom.
Yeah, and I just also
Great.
put it in the chat. Yeah, I wanted to just second, Tim, what you said about the stories. This is another component that we didn't mention, but some of you have met Michael Tim, who has been collecting people's stories about neighborhoods and water. And this is a big part of the project too. Again, the idea is we're all learning from each other, and these stories are a wonderful way to learn about people's experiences and perspectives on water.
Great. So let's go back to our faces. Thank you. Oh, there's Tyler's cat. So Redona, Bernadette, and Monique, do you have any questions related to either Branch Out or to Watermark as resident leaders?
Well, good afternoon, good evening to everyone.
Yeah.
I don't consider myself a leader, but I was a little concerned about the Watermark. Never heard of it before. And you said it's on 30th and the Capitol. So I'm going to make it my business tomorrow to go check it out. And it said that you're going to put one in Sherman Park. Where exactly, when you say one in Sherman Park, are you looking at? What's the location?
So part of what we're here today to talk about is building this neighborhood project team, which would be residents from Sherman Park. And it would be sort of steered by the community. There isn't a site picked out yet for the marker, and it would come from the community, from the neighborhood project team, and from information from workshops and talking to people. The neighborhood project team would get to steer that decision.
And a follow-up, I guess in my little mind, I'm thinking, okay, it gives a pulse off and you will know that the weather is going to, but if I'm in the house, how am I going to know that? So does it make a sound that I maybe can hear? I'm just kind of trying to picture this whole thing, and it just didn't kind of register well in my little mind. So could you explain that just a little bit better?
It won't make a sound. I think I think there would be, if it ended up blaring a siren or something, that might not be too popular an idea. But it's not going to be visible from every house or anything like that. But it is our hope is that over time this is going to be the goal is to have these in places that are visible, parks or public spaces, these kinds of places, so that if you're walking by, if you're there, you can see this. It's going to be connected with water drop alerts that you can actually get as a text. So it won't be the only way communicating the water drop. It's really just it's a part of that network and a part of that communication. The whole way that Milwaukee Sewerage District is trying to communicate about water stewardship to the whole community. but those are great questions. One thing also I just wanted to add real quickly with the location. Yeah, everything Ellie said, you know, that we want this to be neighborhood driven. At the same time, there's no way to determine in advance, in part because all kinds of it has to be worked out with, you know, the city, who owns the land, all of these kinds of details have to be worked out too. So there's a process through which this goes. It's not easy to figure out exactly where it goes, but the idea is certainly for everybody to have a voice in this.
Yeah, and in our conversations, I think we've talked about the possibility of multiple marks within Sherman Park because it is such a large neighborhood. And in our conversations, this is Sherman Park Environmental Collaborative Office neighborhood group with Watermark. We've been starting to talk about the southeast corner of Sherman Park as being a place to begin looking for a site. And that would be the middle ground neighborhood where Sherry Fuqua is one of the leaders. So that's what we're starting to think about, you know, maybe multiple sites. We had also looked at the Grassland, the northwest corner, began our conversations about the Grassland Manor neighborhood, the northwest corner of Sherman Park, thinking about 4 quadrants. And that project has moved toward a partnership with Greenprint Partners, which is looking at the development of green infrastructure to address some really serious water problems in that area. But that would be an area too where a watermark might be very helpful. So I could imagine people driving by it and saying, "Oh, yeah, we've got this event coming up. We need to ratchet back on the water in our house." So, good questions.
And if I could also add, Radonna, one of the things that I have requested several times of the Watermarks team, and you know, this is part of the reason why we asked for several watermarks, because our neighborhood is so big. And you know, maybe that will happen down the road, you know, as this project takes off. And maybe if it's not, you know, next year, maybe in the coming years, we could, as Tim was mentioning, maybe every quadrant of Sherman Park could have a water marker and have that same engagement with the community to bring people on board, enroll them, engage them to be part of that project team to possibly develop other water markers for Sherman Park neighborhood.
And you know, mention of that, the water drop alert, my neighbor who we text back and forth, she said, "Yeah, I got the water drop alert." What does it mean exactly? So I think education around that term and how people in their households can affect where the water's going, how MMSD can keep less water out of the tunnels would be advantageous also.
Absolutely. Monique, Bernadette, do you have any questions?
I see
Jessica.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, this is all the vision of a well-known artist, Mary Miss, who did the River Walk in Milwaukee and has done a lot of art projects, larger art projects in the city. And I think that as we've been working and meeting all of your neighbors and ambassadors, we have realized that the size of Sherman Park it's unmatched with comparing it to the sizes of other neighborhoods. And so we've been really advocating to Mary just about how unique this community is and advocating for more sites. So hopefully that, you know, as this grows and as we hear everything that we hear from you, all the information that we carry on to the team that is actually coordinating where these markers land. But I do think one important thing to consider in terms of location is when you do visit the Green Tech Station, if there is any opportunity in a space where people can gather and education can happen, it does become sort of a flag of an education, like taking a brownfield or just an area like for it to emerge as a gathering place to to
Mhm.
bring attention to water and community. So
Yeah.
just wanted to add that.
I know Miss Mabel would affirm that. You know, going to Green Tech Station. So we're done. I'm glad you're thinking about it. It's north of Capitol on, what do you think, 30th?
It's on
Mabel?
It's right behind, everybody knows where the Ned's Pizza was, right? Yeah, so it's right behind where Ned's Pizza was once located, and they are doing a phenomenal job making that into a huge educational space with the green infrastructure, the environmental education. There's solar panels there, there's bioswales, there's also they planted, I think, 100 or so trees, so that they could also help to absorb some of the toxins that were in the ground, because it was once a Browns field. So, you
Mhm.
know, we're looking at also too, where do we go with Sherman Park in creating a space like that, so we can help educate the community, because that's really important, as you very well know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and oh, I'm sorry.
ahead.
I was just going to say
Yeah.
it is 31st Street.
Oh, it's 31st. Okay.
No, it's
Yeah.
not far.
Yeah, the railroad tracks are just to the west, and it's north of Ned's Pizza, where Ned's Pizza used to be. So wonderful. Just so we're coming to the conclusion of this, we will, it has been recorded and sent to the cloud, and we will try to get the information out, Tyler and Mabel, as quickly as possible, to try. And again, we appreciate Watermark getting out into the neighborhood and meeting neighborhood leaders and informing people about the program. And Joe and Tyler, we really appreciate all the ways the tree board is in trying to get information out. These two, it was great that both of these presentations happened on the same night, because they really relate very well to each other. One last, was just the last couple of minutes. Tyler, you would like to invite people to help with a cleanup on Long Lincoln Creek, another wonderful water body.
Yeah.
Do
All
you wanna make
residents
that
of
announcement?
Milwaukee or family you can get from outside of the city to come and help would be great. It's the section is from Sherman to 35th of Lincoln Creek. It's the last barrier before the future West Basin Park, which is going to be amazing. And it needs our TLC for sure.
What
We're
time would you like
meeting-
people to be there?
Yeah, we're meeting this Saturday at 9 o'clock. And so I'm going to be there from 9 until noon. People can come for however long they want. We will meet at the corner of Congress and 35th, where 35th turns into Hopkins.
Okay. Anybody else have any announcements about green activities that you'd like to lift up for those who might be watching this webinar, or for any of us?
I have a question.
Yes.
The trees. I got on here more so interested in having the trees pruned. I don't need one planted on my property, but I wanted to hear more about that. So how do I communicate or speak with someone about possibly coming out and looking at a tree that I have in my front yard that is leaning towards my neighbor's house and leaning towards mine, and I wanted some branches possibly cut off or trimmed? Who do I contact? How do I
Yeah.
start?
Is
Great
that
question.
is that a tree that is on on your yard, or is that one of the city street trees? That's on your yard. Okay. So yeah, in that case, then I'll put my email address into the chat again here. But if you connect with me, I can send you more information on our tree inventory, and that'd be the first step. And like I said, we're a little backlogged with the inventories right now, but we're working on hiring some folks to pick that up, and we will I'll connect with you right away.
Yeah, so it's J Fitzgerald, FITZGERALD at MilwaukeeWaterCommons.org. And if anybody has any questions,
Yep.
Feel free to contact Mabel. Mabel can direct to us to some of the Sherman Park Eco ambassadors, and we can help connect you with programs as well. So thanks everybody for the presentation. We'll record this. We recorded it and we will send it out. And thank you for all the ways yes, Joe. Oh, you're saying, just saying goodbye?
I was gonna add one more thing actually.
Okay, go ahead.
Unrelated to the tree piece of our work, but another thing just for folks to have on their radar is that there's gonna be a water sector specific career fair happening on October 26th from 3 to 6 p.m. over on the south side, and I'll share some information on that with folks as well. Okay.
Yeah, send that on and we'll get it out through what's happening in Sherman Park.
Great.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Blessings.
Thank
Okay.
you
Keep
for
up the good
hosting
green work.
this and
Thank you,
coordinating
you
it. Thank
guys.
you for the questions, everyone.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
thank you.
Good night.
Everyone have a great weekend coming up.
Yeah,
Too.
absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Good
Thank
night.
you, thank you.
Good night, Joe.